Hey everyone, welcome back to another DxePrep Introduction to Algebra video. And in this video, we'll talk about the exponent rules again, and what we'll talk about is the same exponent rule, which basically states that any number a to the power of n times this different number b to the same exponent n is going to be the same thing as a times b all to the power of n. So now let's see why exactly that works. So let's say that we keep a as 3, and we're going to keep n as also 3. And let's say we have b as 2, and n stays the same. 3 is going to be the same thing as 3 times 2 to the power of 3, which is going to be the same thing as 6 to the power of 3. So now let's see why exactly that works. And a common theme in the previous videos is that we're going to split the exponents apart into individual terms. I'm going to see how exactly we can recombine those terms and see what we get. So 3 to the power of 3, well, that's going to be the same thing as 3 times 3 times 3, and 2 to the power of 3 is going to be the same thing as 2 times 2 times 2. And let's try rearranging this. Let's say, what if we pair each of the different numbers together with each other? So 2 times 3 times 2 times 3 times 2 times 3. There were three 3's and three 2's, and we still end up with the same thing. But now we can group them up together, and it suddenly seems like we can solve for the inside of the parentheses, and this just leaves us with 6 times 6 times 6, which is the same thing as 6 to the power of 3, which is what we saw over here. So it seems like this works, but why exactly does it work? Well, let's try examining it with a's and b's. So let's keep this as a to the power of n times b to the power of n. And now let's try repeating the same process again. So we're going to have a times a times a n times, and we're going to multiply that by b times b times b n times. And then we can rearrange this as a times b times a times b times a times b, all of this n times. And then we can perform the same step that we did before and put pairs into parentheses, and then we can just conclude that this is going to be the same thing as a times b to the power of n. So we see how that works. And in fact, it does work if we had more bases. Suppose I had a to the power of n times b to the power of n times c to the power of n. That would be the same thing as a times b times c all to the power of n. And another key thing to note from here is that we can do the opposite. So suppose I had 2 to the times 3 to the power of 4. I could keep that that would be the same thing as 2 to the power of 4 times 3 to the power of 4. And the opposite of this is really handy when we're dealing with bigger and more complicated exponent terms. So I think that's a good thing to keep in mind. So in the next video, we'll talk about another exponent rule.